And State's Exhibit number 130, what are we looking at here?
This is the inside of the master bedroom door. So this is the door in the closed position. You can see what we would call a line of demarcation, that line being that there's a difference in something. It could be fire damage, it could be soot. In this case it is soot, where you have soot deposition greater towards the top of the bedroom as compared to the bottom of the bedroom.
Based on what you saw of the lines of the soot going across that area, could you tell whether the door to that bedroom was open or closed while the fire was burning?
Based on this soot deposition, as well as other examination of the door, you can tell that the door was in the closed position while the fire was ongoing. And
what tells you that?
The line of soot moving from one side of the from the left, in our case, moving from the left side to the right side. You can see how it's an unbroken line of soot across. Typically, with a door in the closed position, we would see a less, the soot deposition would be less because that door is in the closed position. There's less of the propensity for that soot to deposit along that line.
Was there any evidence of soot of this kind or this type or this nature on the outside of the door?
There was some slight soot deposition to the outside of the door. It was similar, not as much as the interior side of this door.
And looking at State's Exhibit number 131, what are we looking at here?
This is the foot of the master bed, within the master bedroom, looking towards where the head of the master bedroom would be. You can see the imprint of a firearm as well as a glass liquor bottle. In looking at this photograph here, you can see towards the left side of the bed there's still the white of the mattress pad present. This is after we've removed some of the top sheets, but you can still see that there's some of the white of the mattress pad present, whereas on the right side of the bed you can see where that's been consumed, charred, discolored, greater to the right side as compared to the left side.
Now, regarding the white mark that you identified as being the outline of a gun, can you say anything about when that gun was placed on the bed in relation to when the fire was burning or started?
Sure. Given that we have what we call a protected area, it's an area that could have been impinged upon by fire, areas surrounding it have been impinged upon by fire, but the area underneath an item has not been impinged upon by fire, we can say that the firearm was in place at this location prior to the fire starting.
Could you tell if it had been moved at all during the fire?
It appears that it was in that location for the duration of the fire.
And why do you say that?
There's no other marking that would show that it has been moved or replaced in other locations.
Is there anything that you could tell regarding the fire when you look at the wall that's at the far end of that picture?
You see kind of again, coming back to our V pattern again, we have a bit of a V pattern towards the head of the bed area. And then similarly, the wallpaper drooping down and being a bit consumed and charred towards the head of the bed area there. We do have this V pattern present upward and outward. It's difficult to say as far as why we have that in that specific area, although an area of potential likelihood is that it's the head of the bed, the potential that pillows were there, or another fuel package that was not readily identifiable was also in that location is possible, but we do have that V pattern moving upward and outward from the area of the head of the bed.
To your recollection, was there any other fire damage on the other walls of that bedroom? You can see a little bit of that discoloration and drooping to the wallpaper on what would be the west side wall, but barring that, no, there was no other fire damage noted to the walls. And looking at State's Exhibit number 132, can you explain what we're looking at here?
So this is that same wall, but we've removed the bed frame, and the box spring. As you can see, the U pattern, the V-shaped pattern there, extends about as far as the mattress or the items of the mattress atop the mattress were located. They don't extend all the way down to your baseboard heater area. They're pretty well confined to the area of or atop the mattress.
Was there anything regarding that register that's against the wall that you noted for your investigation?
The heat register that's present here, that's shown in this photo, has some soot deposition and some charring material that had dropped on top of it as a result of the fire ongoing. However, there's no noted fire damage to this electric baseboard heat register. Certainly no damage that would lead us to believe that this is the potential for a causal item. It's the damage that's present to it, however minimal it may be, is as a result of being impinged upon by the effects of fire as compared to a causal factor.
And I noted that there are two electrical outlets in this picture, one on the far left side and one just above that heat register. Mm-hmm. Did you examine those?
Yes. And
was there anything that you noted about those two?
You can see that there's some soot deposition present to these receptacles. But the receptacle structures are intact. When looking at them from the exterior, the receptacles are intact, and there's no, there's little causal impact that we're seeing as a result of a failure of a receptacle or a failure of the heat register.
So in looking at this fire damage on the wall, was there any particular location that you were looking at more than other locations within that bedroom as the potential origin?
So not so much within this area. We were evaluating the patterns that we were seeing and trying to kind of formulate our idea or our hypothesis as to what our area of origin could be or should be given the amount of damage that we're seeing and type. But we would need to continue to examine the room further in order to really get that determination.
In State's Exhibit number 133, how did this help you in your investigation?
So this shows that wall that we were talking about earlier a little bit more, where we have that fire growth from the U pattern upward and along that wall. It's showing that we're starting to get impingement to the ceiling. You can kind of start to see the ceiling damage a little bit there, where it's begun to become discolored. And it's starting to calcinate. It's where the drywall, the water evaporates out of the drywall and becomes really, really brittle. So we're starting to see that, but those patterns also help solidify the fire patterns and the fire effects given from that we were seeing off of the mattress, that our fire grew and developed in the area of the mattress.
Did this help you make any determinations regarding the fire's intensity?
As far as fire intensity, the fire was limited in its ability to grow. Given what we were seeing with the door closed, we have the fire triangle. The fire triangle being, in order for a fire to occur and continue to occur, you need three things. You need air, oxygen, ambient oxygen. You need a fuel source, something readily combustible, and you need a heat source to initiate that fire and then subsequently keep it going. With the door being closed, we're seeing that the door is closed while the fire is ongoing. The fire is actively consuming oxygen. When we shut the door, we're not allowing that oxygen to continue, thereby cutting off the oxygen supply to the fire and not allowing the fire to continue to grow as we would expect it to had that door been allowed to stay open, or if it had received oxygen from another source or another location.
In State's Exhibit 134, could you explain what we're looking at here?
This is that ceiling again, and this is that west wall again, as well as kind of the north wall. You can see how the wallpaper is starting to peel down, and that ceiling, the popcorn on the ceiling, has started to come off greater in this area over the bed area as compared to the rest of the room. You can see all that black soot deposition within the room there, as well as the peeling of the wallpaper that we noted in the other photo.
And State's Exhibit number 135, what are we looking at here?
This is the head of the bed as we're moving it away from that V pattern towards the north. So you can sort of see the amount of consumption of mass, the consumption and discoloration to the mattress area there, and how it would relate to the wall when it was in place, when you put them together. Fire doesn't typically burn in a downward pattern, but when you have items that are of a plastic nature, things that are made out of plastic, are made out of basically fuel. They're made out of gasoline in essence. They're made out of plastic type material. They tend to drip. When they start to burn, they tend to drip a little bit. This would be consistent with that effect, where we've got this mattress that has these items making up its consistency, beginning to drip and then burning.
State's Exhibit 136, what are we looking at here?
This is a similar area, just a little bit further over on the bed, a little bit closer to that area of that U shape. Underneath, you can kind of start to see, you see the one item of note here, the box spring. You can see the box spring in the top of the photo, and how the box spring in that area is pretty much fine. There's really no fire damage to speak of to the what would be northwest corner of this box spring. You can also see it kind of at the base of the photo, some blinds, some plastic retractable blinds that have fallen and that are kind of located and nestled back in behind the bed there.
State's Exhibit number 137, what are we looking at here?
These are the blinds again. These are the blinds after we've removed them from the area in which they were located at. But you can see that the blinds have started to melt from the bottom, that plastic starting to melt and starting to kind of condense itself. But given that we've got a majority of the blinds still intact, the blinds fell off the wall and managed to kind of get down in that area between the bed and the bed and the wall relatively early on, and were protected. Again, coming back to our protected area from the gun again. These blinds were protected from the impact of the fire after they had fallen.
And that was after they were down kind of underneath the bed?
Correct.
State's Exhibit number 138, what are we looking at here?
This is the southwest corner of the mattress. We were talking about earlier with the shotgun, or with the firearm, that the southwest corner of the mattress, the west side of the mattress, was less damaged as compared to the east side of the mattress. This is that southwest side of the mattress. You can see kind of in the corner there's what looks like a paint can. It is a paint can. It's a lined paint can. It's lined with kind of a graphite type substance. It's what we use, and industry standard uses to collect samples for the testing for the presence of ignitable liquids or ignitable liquid vapors.
Why can't you just put those items in a bag like law enforcement does?
If we were to put them in a bag, what we're looking for is the vapors. We're able to test for the presence of the ignitable liquids based on their vapors. The crime lab knows a heck of a lot more about it than I. They would be able to tell you much more about the chemistry, but basically what we're looking for is the vapors. If we were to put it into a bag, it allows those vapors to still continue to basically be lost. By putting them into a can, we get prolonged shelf life, and it also helps them be able to test it.
So as you're describing this corner of the bed, when you look at State's Exhibit number 7, which of the 4 corners of that bed on State's Exhibit 7 are we talking about?
As we're looking at the exhibit here, and we're looking at the master bed, it's the top left corner of the bed.
And State's Exhibit number 139, can you explain this photo?
While we're taking samples for the testing of ignitable liquids and such for fire debris, we try to show everything that we're doing while we're collecting it. This is during the collections process where you can see the gloves that I've used. I use a separate set of gloves, a different set of gloves for every sample I take. You can see the we use them as disposable knives. It's a cheap utility knife that gets one use. We use it once at a fire scene for collecting one sample, and we get rid of it. And you can also see the lid and what's located within the contents of that sample. That's our standard procedure for collecting these samples. We try to photo them, use all of these different materials so that we're not cross-contaminating across from one to another.
What do you mean by cross-contamination?
If we're to use the same gloves over multiple different samples, or even to use the same knife across multiple samples, there's the potential that you're taking something that may be present in one location and putting it in an area wherein it was not before. So you're essentially mucking up the rest of the samples and indicating that there could be something present there that was actually not.
So why did you take a sample from the area of the bed that doesn't appear like it was burned?
So we took this sample here. We're trying to be thorough. We're trying to be able to make sure that we have the most accurate representation across the room, given that our fire area is limited to this mattress here. We took samples throughout the room, but this area specifically, because if we have an area that has already been burned, it already had fire occur to it, there's a potential that there's that the ignitable liquid vapors, which is what burns when you apply an ignitable liquid, is not present anymore, that it's been lost during the combustion of the fire. So we were taking this one in order to help if there was something present that was still applied to this particular location, we could still attempt to locate it, even if the rest of our samples had that been lost during the fire.
State's Exhibit number 140, can you tell us what we're looking at here?
This is another photo of an area that we're trying to take a sample for here. This sample was taken from what would be the, as we're looking at it here, would be the top rightmost area of the bed as we're looking at it on the exhibit here. This one contained items of the mattress as well as the box spring in the area of this weird discoloration to the box spring, not necessarily meaning that there's anything implied to it, but it was an area of interest for us to want to try to take a sample to see if we could return any values for the presence of, or lack thereof, of ignitable liquids.
Can you explain why there's that, it looks like one part of that box spring had been burned and the rest of it looks like it hadn't been touched? Was there anything that you could see at that time that would explain that?
At the time of the examination, not necessarily. It was an area of interest for us, which is why we took the sample. But the area there, where you can see the mattress springs, that area is sort of a, as compared to the rest of the mattress, a sort of an anomaly, if you will.
So did it appear that that part of the mattress had been burned through?
That's what it appears, yes, that there's this sort of area where this portion of the mattress had been burned through to the layer of the box spring, yes.
So neither you nor law enforcement that was there had cut that piece of the bed out?
Correct.
And looking again on State's Exhibit number 7, where that bed is located in that back master bedroom, can you tell us which side of the bed or which portion of the bed is depicted in State's Exhibit 140?
That would be bottom right.
And now we're looking at State's Exhibit 141. Can you describe what we're looking at here?
So this is the area surrounding where the decedent would have been located. You can kind of see where the legs would have been located. It's that protected area, similar again to where the gun was located, but we have a bit of a protected area where the victim's leg and foot was located. Around it, we have this area along the carpeting. And this area along the carpeting, as we can see, it's kind of a bluish, dullish carpet. It's like a dullish grayish it was probably a different color before it got all soot deposited, but specifically, you can see that there are these areas where you've got kind of little tendrils of charring damage to this carpeting. When I was talking about irregular patterns to the carpet, this is what I was referring to. We have these little patterns that really aren't, there's no fuel package located, there's no item of combustible material located on the floor here. That would really lead us to believe that there's a real good reason as to why we have something like this here. We're not, in the field, we can't call this as the presence of an ignitable liquid. That's why we take these samples. So here we're taking a sample of the area of these little tendrils in order to be able to test that for the presence of ignitable liquids.
So was that actual burn damage, or was that just intense deposition?
This is areas where there's burning. This is area of fire damage here on the floor.
And State's Exhibit number 142. Can you explain that?
This is the collection of that sample where we have those tendrils. You can see in there the gloves and the knife. It's further along in the collection of the sample. We try to take a spread of photos as we're doing the collection, but this is as you can see, the carpeting has been removed from that location and placed in the can.
And State's Exhibit number 143.
So further up here we have our bed once again, and you can again see the damage that we were indicating with the V pattern there. You can also kind of see, if you take a look towards the bottom of the photo, you can see that area that we had taken that sample from previous. This area down here, and you can kind of see the mattress, and as the mattress sits there, you can see how that specific area that we had just taken a sample from is a little bit different in the amount and type of damage that's located there. It's just during this process, during this sort of phase of the examination, we're just noting these items and noting these differences. And we'll attempt to reconcile them later, but that is an item of data that we used in our determination for the fire.
And State's Exhibit number 144. Can you explain what we're looking at here?
This is another photo, again, of that area on the right, kind of top right, again, as reference for that, of the bed. You can again see some differentiation in the burn patterns along the right side of that bed, and that specifically that area. This is prior to us separating the mattress off of the box spring.
And State's Exhibit number 145.
So this is the other side. This is the left side of the mattress. This is immediately to the left. If we're looking at the mattress, that hole is kind of on a mid to top towards the head of the bed. We're looking towards the foot of the bed here. We're also looking towards, you can see in kind of the background there, where the victim had been located. You can see the victim's, what would be his left foot, left leg area. And you can also see the ignitable, the potential for ignitable liquid patterns, but needing confirmed by the lab. But those patterns that we showed earlier, those kind of weird, irregular shaped patterns, we're seeing those here kind of to the left of the photo here as well.
And again, looking